Hey, welcome to Rise and Shine. My name is Alissa, the consultress, real estate consultant, and I put the fun in funding. So helping people to understand where they are in their deals, think through their strategy, and also, be who they're meant to be. My number one goal here in Rise and Shine is to produce conversations that allow people to see behind the closed doors, where we can have everyone be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. And joining me today for this awesome conversation is my dear friend, multipreneur, real estate investor in her own right, travel maven, etc., etc. Huge heart. Want to introduce you all to my good friend, Leanne DeMaio. Leanne, welcome to Rise and Shine. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic, especially here spending time with you, Alissa. So glad to be here this morning, and I'm very grateful that you asked me to be here.
Right on. And again, I love having conversations. We've had a few before this very broadcast where we kind of opened up the container about business and life and where things are and where they're going. So I want to open up our inquiry today with the word salad that we came up with right before we pressed record. And what came up first and foremost in that conversation is love, and how love relates to people and projects and your purpose. For me, I love alliteration. So, when I hear love, I hear this phrase recently that keeps coming to me: love leads to liquidity, and how love put and channeled into service can become wealth. So that's what's up for me right now around the word love. How about you?
Oh gosh, the first thing I start to think of is, just like everything in the song, love is patient, love is blind, but love should really be like the heart of your business, your personal life, everything that you do. I believe that that's kind of a core value. I believe that everything that I do, every decision that I make, every person that I come into contact with, that's really what I want to walk away with at the end of the day, is that I have somehow, some way, like touched their lives. And it can look differently with every person. It can look differently with every project. But that's really what I just kind of want to leave my love, or leave my life legacy with, is just that word.
That alliteration, man, right?
I know, leave my love.
It creates your life's legacy and liquidity. So how does that show up for you in your work and in your passion projects? Because you're up to quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll say that. Oh gosh. So let's start with a thing that's probably the most filled with love. The thing that's really kind of driving me right now. And that is just the beginning phases of trying to create a project with transitional housing for homeless. Recently, I've been, I guess you could say, kind of made aware of a friend who's going through homelessness. And it's been some time, but I'm really starting to learn a lot about how people get there, learn a lot about the facts that are out there that a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of stigmas, a lot of people just think that, oh yeah, these people are on drugs, or these people have mental disabilities. There's a lot of things that can lead to homelessness. Been definitely trying to read a lot of books about it, just so that I can learn the facts and not the falses. But have some amazing, amazing friends and people who are sharing this passion with me, and who are going to help us to make this happen. So we're just in like literally the beginning phases of just planning it out. We do have somebody who's a grant writer who's willing to help us kind of look for some grants for this project. But for me, having a space that's private, intimate, that you can share your most personal secrets, that feels safe. To me, I couldn't even imagine spending even one night not having that. So that's definitely, that's a big thing for me.
And what comes up for me as you're exuding this love to provide a place for people to feel loved, right?
Mhm.
Is that's the base principle around having a home, is creating a place where your family feels like they can be themselves. We can drop all the pretenses and be home in our bodies, in our hearts, in our space. So your passion for helping others, I don't think it just stops at this project to help solve this problem that you're seeing in the world. I think, I'm going to pull back the curtain for everybody here a little bit, but I think that also translates for you in helping people in your real estate endeavors. Being a real estate investor, as you and I both well know intimately, we are in the service business of providing homes for people. If you're a rental or a rental investor or a house flipper, what you're doing is improving the space so that people can feel that love, feel that energy, feel that investment of time, resources, money, energy, the whole nine, to be able to have a place that they can call home. So to me, that word salad that we started to kind of shuffle around, we've got love in there, we've got home in there, we've got work. Like, I have here on my wall, results driven, passion fueled. And that passion to me always anchors with the relationship first. So that love literally for me leads my business endeavors. It leads why I want to connect with people to help them understand real estate investing so they can figure out how they want to play in this 360-degree world. So no two investors are the same. No two deals are funded exactly the same. And having a connection with the person and what they're trying to accomplish makes the whole thing very clear. So, I know you serve people in a bunch of ways, and, we'll have to have you come back and give us some updates around the serving of the civic population. But I also want to understand a little bit more about how that love is generated for you in your travel business and also in your real estate businesses, Miss Multipreneur.
Sure. Let's go with the travel real quick. So kind of going back after high school, I really didn't know what direction that I was going in. I thought that I wanted to do occupational therapy. Then I realized how much science was involved, and I said, oh no, we don't need that. So my mom actually suggested, why don't you try this business school? It's only 2 years, and it's lower cost than going to a 4-year school and stuff. Plus it was local. So it was, I was able to kind of accelerate getting out and being able to find myself a career. So I went with the travel school, learned a lot about, the world and stuff, but still never stepped foot outside of the US. Okay. And at that point, really, I'd only been to a couple places within the US. So I was kind of, just a little like to myself. So fast forward, I met my best friend at college, and she's still my best friend to this day. And she is Dominican, from the Bronx in New York. And at that point, I really hadn't ever had a friendship with somebody who was Hispanic. So I learned a lot about that culture and just like fell in love with it, speaking of the word love. And she took me on my first international trip, which was down to her home country, Dominican Republic. And that is where my eyes were opened. We went down to her, we're going to call it neighbor's house, which was at this jungle. That's all I can describe it as, like a jungle, but they call it El Campo, which is kind of like the country. And we go down there and we're driving down, and there's little kids climbing mango trees to go grab mangoes, and they're taking baths in the little creek and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then we get to her place and she says, hey, we're going to go visit my neighbor. Mind you, we're in the middle of the country. So we go to the neighbor's house, which is just a hut. It is literally a hut. It is one room. There is I'm going to call it like a kettle over the fire. She has a little table, and in the corners, where they sleep. Okay. So that's literally it. And that's the first time I ever experienced anything like that. And we're sitting there, and this lady, at this point, I didn't speak any Spanish. So she's saying something to my friend Esther, and I don't really understand. And she said she is so honored to have an American in her house. And I'm like, so great about me. I'm like, okay, what makes that so special? And she said, you have no idea, this is a privilege for her to have you in her home. And I'm like, what's a privilege for me to be in her home? I don't really understand that. So she's getting ready to make us some rice. And she is just going on, and it's saying stuff I just didn't understand. And I'm like, Esther, I can't eat her food. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, that's all the food she has for her family. Like, that's what she's eating. Like, I have plenty. She needs this food. And she's like, you're going to eat her food. And I'm like, I can't do that. And she's like, oh no, you're going to do it because you're going to disrespect her if you don't. And
Mm-hmm.
after that trip, I started understanding these people, and what we feel has nothing. But in all reality, they had everything. And they were the happiest people. And as I traveled the world, luckily with Delta Airlines, when I worked with them, I was on a plane almost every week. And it was just unbelievable feeling to be able to see the different cultures, the different foods, the different ways of life, the different types of people. But the people that had the least amount of things were the people that usually had the most amount of joy. And so that's why I think everybody needs to get out of, like their own little box and just really experience that in the world. I think it'll make a vast difference.
Girl, I feel you. So if
Right? Oh,
you know anything about my story, it starts with my father's country of origin. Talk about manja manja. Like, yeah, you had better eat that food because that's
right.
their love. They're giving it to you. If you
Yeah.
don't receive love, you are stopping the actual flow of wealth. When you don't allow yourself to receive, you're also stymieing up and almost hoarding your ability to give as well. So, having that as my template, my father came over from Italy and I've visited there when I was 8 years old, when I was 15, just turned 15 while I was there, and when I was 27. My heart, a piece of my heart will always live there because it was, and my mom will validate this feeling for me. And I feel like everyone in our family who goes to visit them in Italy gets the same feeling. It's like, they're just, we're out of our own element. So then we're out of the matrix of juxtaposition of thought and needing to do and obligation. Like, so we're clear headed because we're in a separate space, but you do feel that their simplicity allows their love to come front and center. So in our country, a lot of times we feel like simplicity equals poverty. And I just had this conversation with my uncle not too long ago. Like, I have chosen a more simpler way to live because it provides me access to that funness in me. It provides me access to being able to stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
And when I moved my family from Long Island out to Western Pennsylvania, it provided the very same opportunity for me to renegotiate and, kind of take a look at all those pieces of my life and say, does this fit? Do I keep it and take it with me? Or is it time to let it go? Is it time to shed this piece of my identity because I'm in a new context? And I love that your focus for your travel business helps people to enjoy new contexts and then try new things on, because so often that feeling of being stuck is literally because you're thinking the same thoughts, you're doing the same things, and you're not looking for the miraculous in the simple. So I am with you, and change your context, change your environment, change your life. A lot of the coaching work that I do helps people to take those thoughts and metabolize them and drop into their feelings around those thoughts and help to kind of put some distance in between them. Literal energy. You're putting people in a literal distance. I'm putting people in an energetic distance.
Right.
Those conversations to see, to examine what is really going on. So I'm all for, changing that context and then allowing yourself to feel, because you will feel more when you're in a new place. Sometimes that feeling is fear. I moved
I was just
into
gonna say.
Yeah, I moved into an apartment when I was, a very, very new mom, and it was on a main street. And every time a car went by, I was like, oh, for like 6 months until it started to become background noise. But like the first thing was fear. And then after that was just like, oh, I can trust this because I've got more exposure with it. What were you going to say around fear?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, even going to a country, when you don't speak the language, it is very scary. Like, luckily down there, I didn't feel so terrified because I had her. But, when I started going to Europe and some of those countries, while the majority of them do speak English or have English writing. Going to Turkey, for example, with my brother, that country was the first country that there wasn't that much English, and we just thought, oh my gosh, this is a language that we don't even know how to interpret that well. So that was like a little scary there, but at the same time, you just learn so much and you adapt and you realize that humans, no matter who or where they're from, they want to help. And so in that position, when my brother and I were there, I just remember this specific time we were really out, like in the country, when we were driving from, the city down to this other place, and we're on country roads, and we stop at this gas station. And now I'm like, okay, there's definitely not going to be anybody here that speaks any English. So we're there, and I'm like, how do we pay for gas? Because it wasn't a pump yourself. They came out and they spoke with you. And I just remember like, all right, what do we do? So we're sitting there trying to like sign language, kind of like you and I were talking about last night. And we're just saying like, no, and the guy's laughing at us. And so we pulled up our Google Translate app, and luckily it did work for the most part. But he wanted so bad just to figure out how to help us. And that's the beauty of the travel too, is like, yes, you're going to feel very uncomfortable, but at the same time, like you always find people who are going to be willing to help you because they know that you're in a very vulnerable state.
Yeah. Isn't that where all value comes from? Is
Yes.
feel the fear and take action anyway. Or,
Yep.
just what do they say? All growth is on the other side of your comfort zone, because that's what it takes. It takes a new context or a new experience or something where you don't feel like I got this. My
Right.
son is in that stage of life right now where he's got this. He knows everything. And I remember being in that state and outgrowing it and coming to the other side going, woo, I thought I knew everything. And now that I'm, the age that I am now, like I knew absolutely nothing, but thank God for
Right.
that confidence in what I did know. And so
Absolutely.
when you're feeling that fear and you're opening up and you're being vulnerable, know that also there is that piece of you that is very comfortable and confident in who you are, in
Mhm.
your capabilities, and that will carry you through. Even if you're not exactly sure how, people want to help. And that connection is the very thing that creates progress. I mean, that's what
Absolutely.
Rise and Shine here is all about, is showing that connection and how, in business and life and everywhere else in between, the connection is the thing that creates the ability to have progress, that creates the ability to evolve, to understand. So conversations are more important now than ever before in the history of humanity. And so we're real jazzed to have you here talking with us or listening to us have a conversation and connect with each other, and how this conversation connects to the absolute everything of the rest of our lives. So real
Definitely.
quick, I know we're going to close this out here in a little bit. What is one tool or one recommendation you can make for people to kind of open up and expand their horizons?
Reading. I remember, I mean, it's so cliche, and everybody says, oh, read more, read more, read more. And when I started to really dive into that, I totally understand why. But in terms of a tool, for those that don't or can't find the time or don't make the time, I was one of those. One of the best tools that helped me was an app called Blinkist, if you've never heard of it. Blinkist basically will take non-fictional books, and they will take about 15 minutes of the best content of those books and put them into what they call blinks. So let's just say each book has 10 blinks. So it'll be like 10 of the most important content. So in reality, you're getting the majority of what that book is about, but in 15 minutes. And you can just listen to it. So that is really what kind of drove me on the trajectory to really start to dive into reading. But I cannot say enough about that. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it allows, I too am a believer that leaders are readers. And I'm in a habit right now of reading 3 times a day, even if it's
Yeah.
just 5 minutes, 3 times a day. It helps to prime my thinking, just like watching TV and commercials and things like that kind of primes your thinking in the background. Having this daily habit of reading allows me to pick the brains of great minds, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, and allow their stories or their perspectives, just like you're getting this perspective here by listening to Leanne and I talk. Getting in there and reading habitually helps you to rewire some of your thinking and some of your perspective. So I find it to be a very growth producing habit. And I would not be who I am today if I never came across the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferris. That led me to a podcast he was promoting with Jack Canfield, who wrote the Success Principles, which is, I've been a certified human potential trainer with the Success Principles for over a decade now. My life has been completely revolutionized by this material and by living it and by, talking to other people who are reading the same or reading different things. So we can all compare notes vocally, but also, have that conversation in your head with the author by reading their content. Absolutely. High five for.
Yes, ma'am. And I feel bad. I forgot to mention, I probably should have put this first, but prayer and meditation also cannot, I can't leave that out.
Yeah, you shouldn't leave that out. In fact, a friend of mine who's been on this podcast, Lisa, she has a business called Believing is Seeing LLC. Find her on Instagram. But she's talking about right now, she's doing lives for the 6 components of her hour of power. If you've ever read The Miracle Morning, it talks about setting yourself up for success. And so reading can give you tools. Reading can be for pleasure, and meditating and praying are 2 pieces of the infinity loop around listening and asking for that which you need and receiving that which you are ready for. So, on top of feeding the brain, this practice of getting silent and getting still is where everything sprouts from. It's like having fertile soil. So we could go on and on, I feel like, for another half an hour, but let's give our viewers this snippet, and I'd love to have you come back again and talk more about your love-led progress in your endeavors, both in travel and providing homes and solving homelessness. I should get you a freaking cape, I feel like. But it has been a pleasure being here with you today. Let us know what you think in the comments, and I'll put some contact information for us both here in the show notes so that you can reach out and have a conversation with Leanne yourself, because I'm a better person for it. You should too.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure.
Much love.
It was really great. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.